Hello and welcome back to Liberty Wolf. My name is Zach Strong. This is episode number 33. I'm recording this on December 13th, 2021, though I'm not sure exactly whether it will air today or tomorrow or sometime in the future. But I haven't been here in a couple months, I think, and it's a little bit sporadic the way I do things. One-man band here. But if you do like this episode or any of the others that I've done, I ask you to subscribe, like, share, all that sort of good stuff. So I thought I'd come on here today, kind of impromptu, wearing my mismatched outfit, and talk to you a little bit about survival and preparedness. It's been weighing heavily on my mind recently. It's something that I've thought a lot about over the years, and I've written multiple articles. I will direct you to two, which I will link down below. The first one is called The Urgent Need to Prepare. And I originally wrote this for the Independent American Party, which I used to commonly write for. I wrote about 54 articles, I believe it was, for them back in the day. I ran for Congress with them in 2014. Anyhow, so I wrote this in 2014 for National Preparedness Month, which is September. And this year I re-upped it on my own website, theamericancitadel.com. And I kind of edited it a little bit for punctuation, but I kept it the same, added a couple pictures. It should be a little bit more pleasant in format. And so please go look at that. That tells you what you need to do to get started in the preparedness world and in putting together a bug out bag. What do you really need for a 1 year supply of food and water? And because that's what I recommend. I believe that's not just because of my religious beliefs. My church recommends that. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints recommends a 1 year food storage, and they have some of the best food storage out there that you can get. If you're trying to buy prepackaged stuff already, that's going to last for a long time. But I really do think if you look at the world situation, you're going to have to prep for the long time. And I'll get to one of the reasons in a bit, which is a very kind of almost imminent. I'm very hesitant to say anything's imminent because soon is a curious word. But imminent-ish. Okay. So let me get to that in a minute. But before I do that, so the second article is called Could You Survive? And so go look at, again, theamericancitadel.com. It'll be linked below. Could you survive? I ask a lot of questions. I wrote this during a power outage here. Two power outages, actually. I wrote them a couple months apart, actually, the parts of the article. Here in Panama, where I live. So think about these sort of things that I ask in that question. Like, hey, if the power grid goes down, could you survive? I mean, really think about it. How would you heat your food? What would you do without electricity? How are you going to survive? Suddenly, we go back 150 years, as a society. How are you going to do it? I mean, it was common back then. Everyone then could do it. They'd be like, okay, yeah, nothing's changed. But us, today, we're so reliant on technology, on the grid, that what are we going to do? What are you going to do to safeguard your family? Okay, so I ask a lot of those types of questions in that article. Now today, I'm kind of going to do the same thing, actually. Maybe the first thing I'll give you is a list. I like lists. I wrote down here, this is the one preparation I did before turning this on. There are hundreds of survivalist, prepper, food storage, homesteading channels on YouTube. And I am subscribed to dozens and dozens of those. There are some that are really great. I just went quickly and jotted down a few. And so I'm going to go over some that I'm not going to link all these down. You can push the rewind button and go back if you don't hear what I say the first time. But I'll try to read them slowly. It's a list of, a dozen or so. Number one, the Provident Prepper. Poplar Preparedness. The Deal. Viking Preparedness. Black Scout Survival. Sensible Prepper. City Prepping. Canadian Prepper. Survival Dispatch. The Gray-Bearded Green Beret. Warrior Poet Society. Alaska Prepper. Alaska Granny. Drop Forge Survival. Survival Lily. She's European, so that has a kind of a different perspective. And then I chose one Homesteading. Homesteady. Okay, those are some of the ones I follow. among many others. And so you can go look those up. They have some great videos, great resources. Now, not every single one of these deals with preparedness. Like The Deal, for example, he gives a lot of warnings about the political situation, the economic collapse that's in progress right now, the free fall of our society into a dark winter this winter, the shortness of supplies, shortages going on, et cetera, et cetera. You have Epic Economists. I could have mentioned that one. They talk a lot about the crazy stuff that's happening too, economically speaking, and how it's all going down. The house of cards is falling. It's a slow motion fall, but it's falling. And so you have some of these people with different perspectives. Viking preparedness. That guy was in the military. He lives down in the Ozarks in Arkansas, I believe. And his style is a little odd, maybe a little condescending to some people. But he's a pastor down there, I believe. He has some good stuff to say. I like his point of view, even if I don't always agree with it. Again, Provident Prepper, the Provident Prepper. They talk a lot about food storage. Some great stuff there. You need to have food storage. So go to the people who know something about food storage, including, let me name drop here, Wendy DeWitt. Wendy DeWitt has fantastic, what would you say, sermons. Not really sermons, though. There's some religion mixed in there. Lectures, let's say. Seminars, that's probably the best word, seminars. And you can find multiple of those. Just type in Wendy DeWitt food storage. And some of these are, 10 years old, 7 years old, I think was the most recent one that I found. But the information, the principles are timeless. She gives fantastic information about canning, foods, meats, any of the stuff you want, basically. She gives a little system of how to plan, what to stock up on. What's your family going to eat? How much of it do you need? What types of resources do you need? For example, a solar oven. She talks about how that works. Great person to go and draw knowledge from. So again, you got people from Canada here, from Europe, some different places. The gray-bearded Green Beret, that tongue twister there. He was a Green Beret, obviously. He goes over, okay, how do you do a light preparedness, bug-out bag, that's the word. Survival Dispatch, you have a bunch of people there sharing knowledge. Warrior Poet Society, that has some interesting philosophical takes on stuff going on. Drop Forge Survival, they'll go over like, these 30 items that are cheap but not terrible. They're actually really solid, equipment, stuff like that. So you can find a lot of perspectives here on the preparedness. The point is, you need to start yesterday, 2 years ago, 10 years ago. You need to do it. You are insane if you're looking at what's happening in the world and you are not preparing. All those crazy preppers, they're the sane ones now. Now, maybe you don't like the term prepper. I don't really like it that much, to be honest. Survivalist, that's a little better. Homesteader, not every survivalist is a homesteader, but homesteading is a better way to go. It's something I've looked into a lot for myself in recent years that I'd like to get into very soon. And back in the United States, back in the USA, I have what I need, the majority of it. Here down in Panama is another story. So I'm really working on that right now to get up to snuff here, because I was planning to be back in the States already, but that hasn't worked out exactly how it should. And with the way the world's going, I am a little bit skeptical, perhaps more pessimistic than I was, about getting back in time before it all hits the fan. And so I'm trying to stock up on stuff here, looking into some land, whatnot. But wherever you are, start. No matter your financial situation. I promise you, mine's probably worse than almost any of you who are listening. And so you can get started. You can do it. There's no excuses. Your family's temporal salvation. How much does it matter to you? How much is it worth to you, I should say? Talking economics. People love to talk economics. How much is something worth? How much is it worth to you? What's the cost-benefit analysis? Okay, maybe it costs a little bit. What's the benefit you might get from it, though? Your family survives? Does that mean something to you? Do you want your family to survive? I hope so. I hope you're doing everything you can to provide for them, to put away food, supplies, warm clothing, self-defense equipment. I hope you're doing that. Medical gear, first aid kits, triage unit, set that up, basically. There's so many things you need and you can't get all of it in one day. You just can't, unless you have thousands of dollars to boom just drop down suddenly and go splurge at a store, some survival store somewhere. You're not going to be able to do it all in one day, and it's not necessary to do that. You can do it over time. We still have a little time before the collapse. Not much. It could be months, could be a couple of years, but it's coming very soon, very, very soon. I think everyone feels that something is a little off. Now, those people who are just feeling that, I feel a little bit sorry for them because their discernment's really out of whack. You should have felt this many, many years ago. Okay, I was 12 when I realized how awful the situation was that we were in. And so all the signs are there. Read the tea leaves. Okay. And so you need to start. And so a survival mindset is really one of the biggest and best things that you can have going into this. Okay, a survivalist mindset that you need to survive. You're not ignorant of what the possibilities and ramifications are. Okay, it can happen here. What is the it? Pick your poison, right? So you have war. War will come to our land. It will be a civil war and mobocracy, anarchy everywhere. But I firmly believe, and I don't care what anyone else says, I firmly believe we will be invaded, at least at some level. We will be hit by nuclear weapons by Russia and China. That's a foregone conclusion. If you don't believe that, then I'm sorry, your preparedness is going to suffer big time, massively, because it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's Soviet military doctrine, which holds over to Russia. In fact, Putin just a few years ago revamped their military doctrine and their first strike policies and whatnot, and they actually increased the call for the use of nuclear weapons in the event of war. They have this whole list of things that they're going to drop nukes on you for, including putting armies around them, threatening them, supposedly, like everyone claims NATO does. Okay, and so Russia is prepared to nuke everyone. They threaten it constantly. They threatened to nuke Denmark, for crying out loud. Denmark. Okay, they've every year, not a year has gone by since I was 12 years old, that they haven't threatened to nuke NATO or the United States. We're biggest part of NATO, right? So either NATO or directly the United States. And then they've threatened, Putin said, was it 48 hours or 72 hours? I forget off the top of my head. I think 48. He said in 48 hours I could have my troops in, and he named a bunch of world capitals, including Vienna and Berlin. I don't remember all of them, but all over Europe. He's a warmonger. He's crazy. He's not some Christian reformist. He's a communist. He's a KGB strongman. Okay, he is at the highest echelons of conspiracy, at least for his part of the conspiracy. Okay, there are other people in the West and whatnot, but he holds Russia in his hand. Okay, and he wants. Here's the thing. He's already invaded Ukraine. He's already done it once. He has over 100,000 troops right now on the Ukrainian border, and they're preparing to be invaded. And Biden's basically like, yeah, it's Tuesday, right? Like, he has no idea what's going on, and so he's not going to step in the way. NATO, maybe they'll try to do something. They've threatened to send British troops, for example, have been planning to go in. They're prepped, ready to go if they decide to actually go. So we'll see what happens there, but there will be a war in Ukraine, but it might be a gradual one. Depends how Putin decides to do it. If it's just an all-out invasion, maybe it could boil over to something. But I think he's going to do it a little bit differently than that, perhaps. Or if he does it quickly enough, like in Georgia in 2008, that's another place he invaded. If he does it quickly enough, then maybe NATO won't have time to do anything. Okay, but there's also going to be a war in the Baltics. Okay, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, all those places. Okay, it's going to happen. Right, so there's going to be continual conflict with Russia, and we will be nuked by Russia. They don't have 20,000 plus nukes for no reason. You don't build up militaries for no reason. You build them up because you plan to use them. China threatens to nuke us all the time. Earlier this year when... there are a couple different times they threatened nuclear war this year. One of them was, I believe, when Mike Pompeo was planning to go to Taiwan. He ended up not going. I believe he caved to the pressure, but they threatened a war of annihilation. Literally. They said war of annihilation. I covered it in my redalertnewsletter.com. So my Red Alert newsletter. I covered this. I quote from the Global Times and other Chinese sources. They threaten a war of annihilation against Taiwan and the United States. Now, imagine if we threaten China with a war of annihilation. Now, you have that crazy Republican senator, I believe it was, from Mississippi, who recently said, maybe we should preemptively strike Russia with thermonuclear weapons. Okay, first of all, why would you say that unless you're trying to provoke them on purpose? Or trying to give them the excuse to strike first. Because if the other person is going to strike first, you want to hit them as hard as you can. Was it Napoleon? Not Napoleon Dynamite, but Napoleon Bonaparte, who said, he who strikes first strikes twice, I believe it was. So think about that, really. You get the first hit in, you can get a second hit in before they're even ready. And it's like you're hitting them twice. The strength of it, too. The surprise of it, etc. But so that's one thing to consider. But I mean, just in self-defense. There's a quote by someone. If I mention his name, I'd probably get banned. But anyway, a world leader in the 30s. He said, if I see an enemy raising his rifle to his shoulder, I'm not going to wait for him to get it there in place and pull the trigger. He said, I'm going to raise mine and shoot first. That's common sense. So, again, why would you say, we might preemptively strike you? You don't tell someone you're going to preemptively strike, okay? But, so, that's what's going on right now over there. But China, again, is, going back to China, China and Russia together are threatening nuclear war, okay? That's just as simple as it is. So nuclear war will happen. That was a little bit of a digression there, guys. But World War III is coming. You're absolutely insane if you're not preparing for it. And you might think, oh, how do we prepare? It's nuclear winter. The whole world will die. That's false. That's a Soviet myth. They created the nuclear winter BS. It's not real. It's a myth. We have tested hundreds of nuclear weapons on Earth. Hundreds of them. The world is still here. Okay, most people don't even know we tested hundreds of nuclear weapons. So don't you tell me that if there was a nuclear war, all of humanity would die suddenly. It's not going to happen. Okay, now would it affect the atmosphere in some places? I believe it probably would. Okay, would it destroy the areas it hits? Yeah, you might not want to go in there for quite a while after. Okay, are there going to be population centers decimated? Definitely, absolutely true. Okay, you don't want to be by those areas. Okay, you want to relocate away from the targets. Where are the targets? Come on. Pretty common sense, right? Military bases. You live next to a military base. Good luck, I guess. A major city with major ports, for example. Okay. Don't be in those places. Those are strategic targets in warfare. You want to be in rural America or wherever you are, whatever country you're in, be rural if you can. Or have at least a way to get out to some little land in a rural area or something, okay? Have that bug out plan. Now, you should have a bug in plan too, right? So prepare to defend your home. But if that doesn't work, that's the first option. If that doesn't work and you do have to leave, have that contingency plan. Be prepared. Know where you're going. Have a plan with your family. They all know what they're going to do, where they're going to go, where they're going to meet, what you're going to bring, who's going to know about it. And you just have to plan. Again, I said earlier, you can't do all this in one day. You can't do it. You have to plan. Okay. And so, again, there are a lot of factors here. I'm just kind of randomly hitting things as they come to my mind. But one of them is this. There's going to be a grid failure. We're being threatened right now, warned, which is when the warnings come from the world elite, the crazy psychopaths, big bankers, all those types of people. When those type of people are warning you, basically they're threatening you. They have like the sick thing where they like to foreshadow what they're going to do. Okay, and so you have Klaus Schwab and his compadres up there in the World Economic Forum. They are telling us there's going to be a comprehensive cyber attack, they called it, that's going to mirror the COVID-19 scamdemic, but in the cyber world, and it's going to knock out the grid essentially. And he's called this is going to be like a cyber pandemic, as Klaus Schwab said. Okay, and he was predicting at least 6 months. Be prepared to be without power for 6 months. He's not the only one. You have the Army Secretary. What's Christine Wormuth? I think the Army Secretary. Okay, saying just recently, hey, if any war happens with Taiwan, and Taiwan's going to be invaded by China, could be next year, the year after, could be soon. I don't think it's going to be in the next couple of months like some people are thinking, but I do think it's going to be within the next maybe couple, 2 or 3 years. Whenever that happens, she's warning, hey, China's going to hit us. They're going to have cyber attacks that take down part of our grid, and average people are going to suffer. She didn't say just the military is going to be hit. She said the average people in the United States are going to feel it. Okay, you have a whole host of people right now warning of these cyber attacks that are going to happen, or grid down scenarios. It's going to happen, even if it's just a solar flare in the future. It's going to happen, folks. Okay, but that's again coming back to Soviet and Chinese Communist war doctrine. They call for EMP strikes. Okay, you want to strike the United States, take down the grid, blast us back into the 1800s. If not everything, that's another myth. Not everything is going to go down in a grid attack, an EMP strike. Not everything. In fact, some systems have been hardened against that, and there are ways to prepare. Some of the older technology too will not be affected in certain ways, but a lot of it will, and it will go out for a significant period of time. Will it be 6 months, like Klaus Schwab says? I don't know. This is one of the reasons I say you need to prepare for the long term. Any survivalist or preppers, so-called, who say, hey, just have 2 weeks of food and water on hand, grab some water bottles and throw them off to the side. That's ludicrous. That's going to save you for what? A couple weeks. What about after that? What about during that 6 months of the grid down? Huh? What's going to happen then? What about if it doesn't come on after 6 months? What if there's if events are compounded, you have a grid down, and then there's by a cyber attack, and then natural disaster hits your area, maybe makes it even harder to get the grid back on. Oh, what if during that time China and Russia say, this is our moment, let's attack, they're weak. Okay, what if it lasts longer than 6 months? Do you have your year supply of food and water like I've been warning for years and years and years? Come on, get it. It's insane not to. You have no excuse not to have it. None. It doesn't matter your financial situation. You have no excuse. How much money does your phone cost? I don't know where mine was. So phone. How much money does yours cost? Probably a few $100, right? How much money do you need for food? More than that, but that would get you a good portion. Let me give you an example. So the number is 100 pounds of rice on average that is eaten by an American adult every year. 100 pounds of rice. I think that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but whatever. Let's say it's 100 pounds. That's what I read online. Okay, I've seen that in a couple different places. Now, so 100 pounds of rice. Just plan for that. That's what you need for a 1 year supply of food. Then, okay. And so, how much does it cost in your area? See, I don't know. This is one of the things you have to plan for. In your area, it's going to be different. It's going to be different for everyone. There's not one size fits all plan for this stuff, guys. Okay, so in my area where I live, it's about $3 for 5 pounds of rice. Okay, so that's about $6 for 10 pounds of rice. So how much is that for 100 pounds of rice? Okay, basic math there, right? And so you could get a couple 100 pounds of rice for the same price of this phone. You can't eat this phone, and this phone's probably going to go down in the grid, when the power grid goes down, during the EMP strike, during the comprehensive cyber attack. So, what's more important to you? What about the luxuries do you have in your house? Do you have a giant HD TV? Huh? Again, can you eat that? Is it even going to be functioning? Do you have that extra car that you really don't need? Did you just buy a swimming pool? I don't know. Did you take a vacation that was unnecessary? Cut out the vacation 1 year. Spend the $1,000, $2,000 you would spend, or the hundreds at least. Buy food storage. Get your food storage this year. Do it. Be done with it. Put it aside. Think of the peace of mind you'd have knowing that, okay, if it all goes down, I can eat something. I don't have to go kill my neighbor and strangle him to death to try to get his food to feed my starving baby. You don't have to do that. Okay? And so you have to prepare, guys. It doesn't cost that much money. $3, 5 pounds of rice. Throw it in your cart next time. How about $6? You have $6? Okay, cut out the ice cream. Don't buy the thing of ice cream. Instead, get 10 pounds of rice. Okay, you just do that a few times and you've got your supply. It doesn't take that long. Okay, a few cans of tuna fish, sardines, beans, corn, whatever you eat. So you should store what you eat, right? That's one of the general pieces of advice that every serious preparedness person knows, right? So store what you eat. Now, let me tweak that a little bit. Store the essentials, the staple stuff that will keep you alive. Store that first, okay? When you're first starting, get the rice and the beans, legumes, and all that stuff, the grain. Store it. Put it aside. Have a way to, grind that grain and stuff. Get all the staples aside right now. Get it. Boom. Done. Then once you get that, then modify it. Start adding the things you really like to eat. Also, what about seasoning? Have you eaten just plain rice recently? It's terrible, in my opinion. Even if it has a little seasoning, just a little bit, but you're eating a lot of it like every day, that gets really old in just a few days. Okay, so you need to have spices and seasonings and salt and pepper, cayenne and paprika and all these different things. Okay, you can store them. They'll store for a long time. Cayenne is especially important. It's very good medicinally. But you have so many different things you can put on your food. Okay, and then you also need to have a way to drink, right? The very first thing I would recommend getting is something like a life straw. There are a lot of different brands. What's the one I recently bought? Supology, I think was the name of it. Supology, Supology, Supology. And so you can get Sawyer. They have a really great filtration system. Again, there are different styles. There are water bottles that will filter. You scoop it into a river and it filters and it's clean water to drink. You have the life straw, slurp it out of a river, a pond, a stagnant sitting water there. Okay. You have drops you can put in chlorine and whatnot to purify water. You can of course boil water, but you need to have something like that. Most people, let's be honest, don't have a lot of space right now to store 1,000 gallons of water, which is kind of what you need for a small family, right? Most people don't have that. Now, I would recommend trying to tweak your situation if you can to be able to accommodate that. Okay? But first off, get the filtration. Because worst comes to worst and you have to run away from your home, you have something. You can stop in a stream, a puddle of water. You can collect rainwater, drink it. Okay? There are a lot of different ways to do it. You just have to think about it in advance. That's the thing. You have to prepare in advance. You can't prepare after the fact. It's not possible. Okay? Prepare is a preemptive word. So prepare now, today. Do it. Do something today. Whether it's you sit down and write down, what are some of the foods that I want for my family? Okay, how much rice do I need? If you need 100 pounds per adult per year, then how many adults in your family? And then kind of extrapolate from that how much you would need for a child, right? Write this all down. Write it down. Okay, how much honey do you need? Do you eat honey? Hopefully you do. It's really healthy. And it stores indefinitely, literally. 5,000 years old honey they found in Egypt. Still good. Okay, this stuff lasts forever. Grain lasts almost indefinitely too. I mean, if you store it right. Okay, so you can get some of this stuff, throw it aside. And as long as you're storing it right, you don't have to worry a whole heck of a lot about it. Okay. And so, again, these are things that you need to start doing. Prepare now. Get ready. Think about it. Okay? Now, this isn't a comprehensive list of anything I'm giving you right now. I'm not telling you, the 50 items you need to have in your bug out bag or whatever. I do have a list on that article I mentioned earlier. But you should tailor it to your specific needs in your specific situation, in your specific area. Okay, right now I'm in a tropical area. My considerations are a little different. I have a young child at home. Considerations a little different. Do you have a pet you need to fend for? Okay. You have to think about things a little differently. Newborn baby, again, Do you have all the stuff you need for a newborn? What about medical supplies? Do you expect to be pregnant? Who's going to deliver your child if the grid goes down or something? Do you have someone in your circle of friends, in your network, who could do that? Do you know how? Does your spouse know how to deliver? Could you do a home birth? Right? Do you have a medical kit? Not just a first aid kit with a little gauze and some band-aids and maybe a burn ointment. That's good. If you don't have anything, get that. But you need something a little more. Tourniquets, for example. You need something to perform small surgeries if need be. Okay. So you need to really plan it in every single sphere. You need to plan stuff. What about for clothes? Could you make your own clothes? Do you know how? Do you know how to sew? Do you have a sewing kit? What about catching food? Do you have fishing hooks, line, a fishing pole? You don't have to have a pole to take with you. You can find a stick, or you can use just a wire, right? And there are a lot of different ways to do it. Do you have that stuff on hand? Is it ready? Is it ready to bug out with you if you needed to go? Okay. Do you have a gun? Firearms? Self-defense? Do you know how to hunt if you need to? Do you know how to butcher an animal? Get the food out of it after you do that? Do you have a sharp knife? I mean, there are so many things, again, to consider, but you have to consider it. You have to think, and that's the first key step. You have to start thinking about it. Get your mind right first. If your mind is prepared, then it's not that difficult to prepare the other stuff. Financially, it takes a little out of you. It's a little burden. But again, cost-benefit analysis. Grid goes down, World War III starts, revolution, anarchy, civil war, a real plague breaks out. Something like that happens, what are you going to do? Okay? What are you going to do? Go read my article, Could You Survive? On the American Citadel. Okay? Read it. Ask yourself legitimately those questions and answer them for yourself, honestly. Okay? Could I survive these situations that Zach has described here? Okay? Maybe I'm starting to ramble a little bit. I think I'll go ahead and end here. Just get ready. Get a food storage, get water, have some warm clothes, get a tent. Ideally, you want to live at home, but get a tent in case you need it, okay? Know how to create a shelter. Develop some skills right now. Maybe have a book that has skills in there from people who know what they're doing, okay? There's so many things you need to prepare. Get it done. Start now. Start today. Do something today. Whether it's you just sit down and you write a list of things that you think you need. Do that today. Have flashlights, candles, all these different things. If you live in a place where you're close to the woods, start getting firewood set aside. Do you have fuel? I saw a guy recently. He's like, oh yeah, I put in this. He has a backup power generator, and that's something I need to mention too. Power generator, I think, will be super, super important. Okay, but what kind? Is it a gas generator? Do you have enough gas? Do you have that much? Propane generator, something like that. Propane to light a stove. Are you going to be able to store all that? Okay, it's much better to have a solar generator probably, right? Because all you need is the sun. Okay, so there are different things like that you need to think about. Not just, oh, I got this thing, cool. Well, that's awesome. Do you know how to use it? Having something's great, but using it is obviously the essential part. And so think about these things very seriously. Look up the pages that the channels that I cited at the beginning, and you'll see some very good bits of advice there. Great lists of stuff for those who like lists. Really, really effective ways to prepare. Defense techniques. Warnings about the crashing economy and the crazy inflation that's already here and coming. The shortages that are here. The 96 container ships that are currently off the coast, which is a record. And just the destruction, the artificial, deliberate, planned destruction of our society. And that's I guess, maybe where I'll end on that note. That this is planned, and so you need a plan to survive it. If people plan to kill you and your family and destroy everything and have it come crashing down on you, you can't survive by happenstance. It's going to be very rare that you do. So you need to plan and plan in advance. Prepare, that's a preemptive action, okay? So get it done. I'm going to end how I always do. Sic semper tyrannis. Long live liberty. See you next time.